Okay.
There we go. I think we all.
Yep, good to go.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Yes,
here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on this Monday evening. Another Knicks Fan TV Bleacher Report simulcast, Knicks Weekly, episode 126. CP the Fanchise in the building, and special guest making his Knicks Fan TV debut. He's another member of the Knicks Beat, covering the New York Knicks for the New York Daily News. He is Kristian Winfield in the building. On today's show, we are going to talk about the return of the Captain Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby maintaining his hot streak, and as the Knicks head into the playoffs, they got another 50-burger, man. Back-to-back 50-plus wins. So let's talk about it, man. Knicks Weekly, episode 126. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it, man. Salute to Knicks Nation worldwide, wherever you guys are watching from. Let's get to it. All right, my guy, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, snap. This is on me. What up, CP? How you doing?
Yeah, how you feeling,
Yo,
bro?
I appreciate you for having me on, man. Like I was telling you before we were live, you know, I watch your show all the time. I always see your clips on Twitter, but actually seeing you in your element right here, the background is dope, man. Thanks for having me on. Yo, listen, I have so much more respect for players that play on both legs of a back-to-back now that I just had to go from Atlanta to come back to New York for the game. First in the Hawks and then playing the Suns. And then, you know, I'm in Atlanta for an extra night, so I'm a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying the scene real quick. Then I'm on a 7 a.m. flight back. It is crazy. I know players. I don't know how players do it, but you get good access on the road. We got a chance to get to practice and get to talk to some of the guys. So we'll get into all of it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, it's been a long time coming. Always wanted to have you on this show. One, because you cover the Knicks, but number two, because you graduated from the illustrious, real HU.
Oh, yes.
So we are connected through Hampton Pirates. You know what I mean? So shout out to my
Why don't I
Hamptonians
know
out there.
this? Why,
Yeah,
when did you graduate?
Class of 06. I'm a little bit more seasoned than you, but yes, class
It's
of
okay.
06.
It's
sir.
all right. Yo,
Yes.
Pirate. Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
Where'd you stay freshman year?
I stayed in Pierce Hall. That was the honors dome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was in Harkness, so you already know the vibe.
Oh, yes, I do know the vibes. I do know the vibes. Shout out to Mr. Cullen and them. Yes, I was in Pierce Hall. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Yeah. I was hitting the books heavy, man. But, yeah, man, definitely pleasure to have you on. And so, you know, look, as we speak on these Knicks and entering the final week of the season, it goes by very quick. It's all about the return of the Captain Jalen Brunson, who came back last night in their win against the Phoenix Suns. 15 points, 6 assists, 3 of 9 shooting from the field, 10 free throw attempts. And here he was meeting with you guys in the locker room last night on his return and how he felt. I'm going to play this soundbite, and then I want to get your reaction to how he looked last night. Here we go.
Could be better, could be worse. A lot of room for improvement on my end, obviously, but I'm surprised of the conditioning part. I thought that would be a lot worse, but it wasn't as bad as I thought.
All right, surprised by the conditioning. What'd you think, man?
Listen, I mean, a guy that had a month off to come back and play 30-plus minutes in his first game back, I mean, credit to him. This is a guy who's been working out 2 to 3 times a day, trying to maintain game shape. I mean, we're in Atlanta, and I see the man doing cable wood choppers in the gym while we're walking out. I'm like, okay, this is a guy who's trying to keep himself in shape. But you ask any NBA player who's gotten hurt and missed time, the only way you're going to get back into game shape is by playing games. There's no way to simulate. I was talking to Mitchell Robinson. I was like, yo, is there any way you could incline sprint your way back into game shape? He's like, no, because I got to move side to side. I got to jump. I got to go from one side to the other. I got to do all this stuff. So there's going to be some sort of slippage there, we'll call it. That being said, you know, you also have to take into consideration, and we're going to get into it, the type of games that OG's been having, how Mikhail's been able to step up. Like the Knicks are trying to figure out how to get everybody firing on all cylinders at the same time while they get into the playoffs. I think it's a good problem to have, right? Because if you're talking about a team that was really heavily relying on Jalen to create a lot of the offense, and then he goes out, and now that responsibility is shared. This is what Josh Hart said a couple days ago. He's like, hey, look, now Jalen can kind of take it easy in the first, second, third quarters, and then we know Captain Clutch in the fourth quarter can come and save the day. I think that's a way to preserve him for the stretch. I think that's a way to get other guys involved and getting them, in rhythm, and that's what we're seeing. So, of course, he's going to look a little rusty coming back. It's been a month since he played. I think it was great that we saw the minutes that he played, and I think he's going to find his scoring rhythm. Not worried about Jalen at all.
It was good to see. I think the organization and the team is very fortunate for him to be able to come back before the playoffs start, because as you see, there was a rust factor. The team had 7 turnovers in the first quarter as they try to get used to playing with him. You saw the offense was kind of bogged down a little bit. So this is the time to iron out those kinks and then get him ready for the playoffs. So thank God it's now, as opposed to game 1 in the playoffs, where now the pressure's bright, much more intense. The lights are brighter, and you got to figure things out on the fly. So it's a good thing that they're able to do this with some time.
That, and I think on top of that, Jalen really wanted to get to that 65-game mark so he could qualify for all these awards at the end of the day. I know at the end of the day he's a team guy and he wouldn't risk his health, but if he was able to give it a go and on top of that qualify for these awards at the end of the season, we knew he was going to do that. I think Clutch Player of the Year, that should be his in the bag. I think maybe he puts a bow on it with one more performance, maybe at Barclays, maybe these next 3 games are going to be tough, and maybe it's at Barclays. But on top of that, just getting him in rhythm, getting that, we saw his jumper wasn't really where he wanted it to be, which we expected. I think that's going to come along. How he plays these next few games. We're talking about Boston. We're talking about Cleveland. Talking about Detroit. These are going to be tough matchups for him specifically, especially when you're coming from a month being off. But I think he's going to use those to work through the kinks because the playoffs are here. The defense, if you're talking about going up against Detroit, you got to prepare yourself now. So, we're going to see what it looks like over these next few games.
Yeah, no question about it. But it was good to see that he did have six of those 15 points, came in the fourth quarter, got an opportunity to have his signature elbow 3 in crunch time as Phoenix was starting to come back into the game. So looks like he was starting to get warmed up as the game wore on. So that's a great sign. Welcome back to Captain Clutch. You didn't really see any noticeable limping or anything like that.
Right.
So, hey, I thought this was a good re-debut, if you will, for
100%. And on top of that, I mean, for the Knicks to have done what they did while he was out and be able to keep the ship afloat, keep the 3rd seed, and now there's no pressure on him to come back and try to steer them into the playoffs. This team, they pretty much know where they are going into the offseason. Now he really just gets a chance to get his rhythm and just assert himself where he's needed. The team showed they can generate offense. OG, we're going to get into him. We got to come up with a different nickname for this guy. He's playing out of his mind. Mikhail, he's finding his rhythm too. We saw him have a couple high-scoring games. Cat, I liked how he took advantage of Nick Richards in the second quarter yesterday. So we're seeing everybody else kind of find their roles with him out. Once he figures out exactly how to walk that balance between finding his own offense and getting everybody else involved, coming back from this injury, this offense could be right back where it was earlier in the season. And then on top of that, you have guys that were on the bench that are in rhythm. Landry Shamit's on the heater. Delon Wright is a guy you can call on now, right? So this team is looking. We didn't even get into Mitchell Robinson. So this team is looking good. But as we're going to get into, there's that roadblock in the second round called the Boston Celtics. So we'll see what happens there.
Has your impressions of him changed since you started covering the team, Brunson?
We're talking about Jalen Brunson? Yeah, absolutely. Because this is a guy that now I get a chance to watch every single game. It's different, you know what I'm saying? And granted, I was across the bridge in Brooklyn, right? So, I still always had an eye. But when you're watching a guy every night versus just seeing the clips, it's 2 totally different things. You can kind of just say, this is it's a fluke, right? You can kind of say it's a fluke when you're not watching every single night, when you're not asking a guy questions every single night about his preparation, then realizing that his preparation doesn't even change. He's just going to go out there and do what he does. This is a guy who carried this team to 50 wins last season when everybody else was down, right? We had a team that injuries left and right, and he carried them to 50 wins. And then this year comes back with a new roster and is still carrying the same team in a different way. I mean, you got to tip your hat to the guy. This guy is an all-star starter as deserved, but what he means to this team, I mean, you can't even really put it into words. So it's one thing when you're a beat writer for a different team or just a national NBA writer and you're kind of watching him from time to time. You watch him every day, you realize Jalen's the real deal.
And speaking of the real deal, how about the dog? I call him the dog, man. I gave him the nickname the dog. OG Anunoby. I was just pulling up his stats here on my phone. In this past week, last 4 games, 26.5 points, 5.3 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting 56% from the field and 51 from three. Your impressions of OG Anunoby this week and just, maybe even this past month, because he's been on fire.
I've got one more stat for you.
Let's go.
Since Jalen Brunson left with the ankle injury on March 7th, OG Anunoby averaged 0.44 points per touch. You know who he's tied with? You would never guess. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay.
He's tied with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Both of them are top 10. So you're telling me a guy that you primarily brought here to play defense, kind of space the floor. I mean, we're going to sit here and say that you didn't really expect OG to be more than, a three-point shooter, role player, spacer, scoring when needed. This is a guy who stepped up and showed, no, I can generate offense for myself. I can get down there. He's finishing at the rim like a tank. Guys can't get in front of him, putting the ball on the floor. I mean, yesterday against Devin Booker, that performance was crazy. It was just the guy's playing out of his mind, and he's showing you that you can run offense through him. He's a guy that can get you a shot. So it's just been – this is a pleasant surprise for the Knicks. I think everyone is a little bit, surprised. You knew you were getting the defense from OG. You knew you were getting the floor spacing. For him to be putting the ball on the floor, scoring at all three levels, scoring in transition, turning defense into offense, and it's not impacting his energy on the defensive end either. He's giving – I think it's actually fueling him. I think the offense that now that he's in rhythm and he's playing at a high level offensively, that's giving him more juice on defense. And if you're the Knicks, you can't really ask for much more. So credit to OG. I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody saw this coming, but maybe he did because he was the one who was saying, hey, I could do more if you give me the ball. Look at that. Look at what he's putting up. So,
yeah, he has wanted the ball. And he's gotten it and he's delivered. And it just seems like, Josh Hart mentioned it, man. Now he finally realized he's a 6'8" demon. I mean, with his size out there, he's imposing. Even when you see him in person, and I'm watching these games, like I'm at the Hawks game, I had some really good seats, and I'm watching him out there. I'm like, yo, he's towering over guys, man. Yeah. And so, like, now with this strength, his ability to attack the basket, I think this is a big benefit to this Knicks offense because one of my biggest concerns about the offense when they came in was not really having a natural two guard who could attack the basket in the half court. Hart does it, but mostly in transition. They didn't really have that two guard athleticism that will draw contact, get to the free throw line, and kind of slow things down. And he's become that. He's been that guy all year.
When the Knicks signed him to a 5-year, $212.5 million deal in the summer, people were looking at that like, that's a lot of money. And sure, it is a lot of money when you consider no all-star appearances, right? When you consider just primarily in his career, he's been more of a role player, right? It's a steep price to play for a role player. OG is not a role player, at least not anymore. Now he's a guy who can play any role. He's a guy who can be the go-to guy on offense if you need him to be. He's a guy who can be a shutdown defender. I mean, guys are just getting off the ball. Guys, if you got OG matched up against them, they're all right, give it up. They're giving it to the next guy to run offense. They don't want any parts of him, right? And that's just defense. Offensively, he's just changed his entire – he's putting the ball on the floor, getting to the rim, finishing with jelly. I'm like, I didn't even see this coming from OG. Yeah. So it's a different dynamic now with the way he's playing. And it, like I mentioned earlier, it's making him play even harder on defense, right? Like he's getting stops, and now the stops are turning into transition opportunities. Everybody's scoring in transition. So, some people were a little skeptical of the deal that they gave him, but he's also the big number is the number of games he's playing. This is a guy who's playing more games than I think he's played in a long time. So if he can stay healthy, and he's looking like he's really healthy right now, that deal, especially when you consider the salary cap is about to be going up 10% every year for a few years now with the new deal, that deal is a steal for the Knicks right now.
How about the 360, man? The 360 was kind of ferocious, man.
I was asking around about that in the locker room yesterday, and Cat said he never seen him do it in practice. Jalen said he never seen him do it in practice. OG saying he does them all the time. So yeah, I don't know who to believe. But listen, he pulled it out. I'm like, hey, listen. I also asked him if he's going to do the dunk contest next year, and he was joking. He's like, I'll sleep on it. We'll see. So who knows? The dunk contest could use him, so we'll see what happens.
Nah, the 360 was ferocious, but I think overall, just his ability to create. I mean, the spot up shooting from three has been very impressive. The drives, like just him just altering his game offensively outside of just, catch and shoot threes and, his one-man fast breaks as he creates turnovers and turns that into scores. Just adding that another option for the offense in the event that, Brunson has a slow game or maybe Towns is facing adversity or McCall is just not checked in. You can go to the dog and maybe he can help, bridge that gap, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also helps because right now, especially in this last few games of the season, with everybody getting healthy, Tom Thibodeau has to really play around with these rotations because he's got more healthy bodies now than he's had all year. So if you're telling me you can buy Jalen Brunson minutes on the bench while still sustaining the offense through OG and not having to compromise your defense while you're doing that, because maybe you throw Mitch on the floor, you maybe throw Deuce on the floor on those minutes that Jalen's on the bench, that's a win for this team. So OG's been better than I think anyone could have expected, and that says a lot because once he got here last year in the trade, the whole defense shifted. This team goes on a ridiculous run in terms of wins, and for him to be playing better now than he was then, I mean, you talked about the contract. I know a lot of people were saying, I can't believe you gave him that much money. This is why you pay that man the money, because of the impact that he's having for you right now.
CP the Fanchise. We got Kristian Winfield, beat reporter, Knicks insider, covering the Knicks for the New York Daily News, episode 126 of Knicks Weekly. Salute to everybody watching on YouTube, our Fanchise channel members especially. Facebook, salute to you guys. Bleacher Report, Twitter, X. We are live and direct on this Monday. And, I got a very special giveaway announcement for my Fanchise channel members that we're going to talk about before the show's over. I'm going to just flash a little preview of it, a little preview. But yeah, my friends at AT&T definitely blessed us with something for the fans. And as you guys see, I'm looking like I'm a little bit in the dark right now. Hey, technical difficulties happen. My lights wasn't working. My color lights wasn't working for some reason, but I didn't want to delay the show any further. So, hey, the show must go on. You could hear us, you could see us, and that's the bottom line. You know what I mean, Chris?
We see you good, brother. Like I said, the background fire, the hat, the fit is fire.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I might need one of them hats, bro. That's a good hat right there. Only if it comes with the beard attachment, though. I wasn't one of the ones. It's not in my DNA. But if you get the hat with the beard attachment, I'll take one of those real quick.
Did you see the rhyme animal Chuck D pull up to the game yesterday with the black KFTV joint on?
It was so many people, like in terms of celebrities that were at the game yesterday. I'm like, man, it was. If this is what the Garden's about to be like for the playoffs, it was some people that didn't even make the Celebrity Row Jumbotron slideshow because there were guys that couldn't even get featured on. I'm like, oh my goodness. I think Antonio Brown might have been in the building yesterday. He didn't make it on that. Like it was. I'm
pretty sure they probably didn't want to put AB on it. That was probably by design. The Knicks are very careful with their PR. That was probably by design. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Shout
man.
out AB. AB's crazy.
So staying on the Anunoby topic, tell me about this because, as we talk about the Knicks and getting their 50 wins, and now with Brunson's return, there's a lot of talk about with OG staying hot and Brunson coming back. Can they maintain that edge? Can he maintain that momentum that he's built? And this was a question that was asked by Fred Katz of The Athletic to Tom Thibodeau after the Hawks game. So you were in the building, right?
I was there for that. That was crazy.
All right, so let me play the soundbite, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it. Here we go.
With the way OG is
playing
right now.
Let me turn the volume up. Volume's kind of low. Hang on.
Oh, that was a great quote.
Yeah, let me. Here we go.
Obviously, the scoring numbers have been awesome for him the last however many games. Once Jalen is back, whether it's tomorrow or another day, obviously his style is going to have to change somewhat. Is there anything that he's done during this time with Jalen out that you feel like
no? And the notion of all that stuff is just it's white noise. The game tells you what to do. So whose shot is it in transition? The open man, right? So, and if there's two on somebody, whose shot is it? Right, you have the responsibility as a primary scorer to make the right play. So, the notion that it has to be this way, that way. No, there has to be a willingness to sacrifice by everybody. The team has to come first. What's best for our team? What gives the team the best chance to win? And that's all everyone should be thinking about. They shouldn't be thinking about who's doing this, who's doing that. That's not the way this game works. If you care about winning, that stuff shouldn't matter.
I guess I mean less about who ends up getting the shot and more about, for example, he's spending less time in the corners now.
He never spent exclusively that notion's a bunch of garbage. And I'll tell you another thing. I value the corners a lot more than most people because I know that's the most valuable spot on the floor. And so he's all over the floor, and that's the way he's scoring. That's the way everybody's scoring. So if you have a drive pass, who's supposed to be in the corner? right? It's driving kick, and if you're cutting and you're moving without the ball, which is what you're supposed to do, right? If you push the ball up, your first responsibility is to create pace. Your second responsibility is to create movement, and everyone's supposed to read the man in front of them. So if you're reading the man in front of you and he cuts, then you replace in front, right? So that's the way this game works. So that's a bunch of excuse making, and that's the way I see it.
Coach, telling it like it is. What was your reaction in the room when he went off?
I couldn't believe that question spurred that type of reaction from him. But I mean, to his point, look at the first game that Jalen comes back. He has 32 on ridiculous efficiency. So I think Fred's question, there's obviously there's a good point to be made there, right? When Jalen has the ball in his hand, sometimes guys are standing still and guys are figuring out why he's playing either two-man game with Cat or he's getting to the rim or getting to the foul line, however it is. We understand that. But also on the flip side of that, which is also to Fred's question, the way OG was playing without Jalen with the ball in his hands, sure, you want to take advantage of that. And how you do that is by putting them on the floor and letting them figure that out. OG said in the locker room after the last game, like, hey, we knew that we couldn't put too much on Jalen right away coming back after being a month off. So, of course, I'm going to want to be aggressive. But he's also want to say I'm aggressive every night. So that finding that balance is going to be interesting, especially with these last 4 games left coming into the playoffs. After those 4 games, the Knicks are going to have a week of practice time, right, where they're going to be able to work through all this to try to figure out that balance. But I think this is a good problem to have. I wouldn't even call it a problem. You have a wealth of options right now, and you just have to figure out how to best utilize each one. And I think that's kind of what Jalen, when the Knicks named Jalen captain this summer, and they brought on Karl Anthony Towns, they brought on Mikal Bridges, they re-signed OG Anunoby. Jalen knew his role was going to change a little bit because he had more mouths to feed than he did last season, right? And he's not one to say we didn't have enough last year to win, but it's clear the roster is different. You have more offensive options, and he knew that if you just look at the stats, he's averaging a career high in assists right now. He's a guy that's going to have to get everybody involved, and that goes back to what we were talking about with Josh Hart earlier. If you get guys like OG, you get guys like Mikal and Cat involved early on, and then you lean on Jalen in the fourth, that's a recipe to win. Josh also said that's a recipe to let Jalen use some of his energy on the defensive end earlier on and conserve some of that offensive for later on. So we'll see how they work through the kinks in the offense. I don't think there's going to be any kinks. I think Jalen's going to come back and find that balance because he's that good and because that's the job they gave him at the beginning of the year. As soon as you bring guys like Cat and Mikal, you got more offensive weapons. You got to take advantage of them. I think Jalen's going to do that.
Yeah, I think he will, man. The captain is smart. He has no ego, and he sees it, man. When these guys have it, you feed them. When they don't have it, it's takeover time. That's what makes him a superstar in this league. Now, look, there's 5 guys in this lineup. There's a lot of mouths to feed. You factor in another offensive dynamo like a Deuce coming off the bench. Right. Everybody's not going to have those numbers every single night, especially when the captain, Jalen Brunson, is going to have the ball. He is Captain Clutch for a reason. And so, look, there was a lot of nights during this season where you saw the offense was pretty diverse with all 5 guys in double figures. Some nights, a lot of nights it was Jalen in the high points. A lot of nights it was Cat in the high points. OG's had 40 pieces, 30 pieces with Brunson on the floor. Mikal, same way. Josh, same way. So, look, I think it is going to vary. Sure, there will be times when guys are going to be standing around ball watching. You don't want that to be a habit. But I think these guys will work it out. And look, give them some more time to develop that chemistry offensively. When you have 5 guys like this who can all be able to score, who are all able to score in different ways, in a variety of ways. But to me, man, most importantly, they got to get the defense together. They've been playing well, but at the end of the day, this team's true ceiling in this postseason is going to depend on how well they defend, and especially if they get to, which I expect them to get to, the second round. They've got to lock in and play defense. Offensively, they will be fine, but if they can't lock in and get stops, none of this is going to matter. OG could drop 50, but if they give it up 60 on the other side, it don't even matter.
100%. And couple notes. The Knicks are a top 10 defense since Mitchell Robinson came back. Let's get that out the way right away. This team hasn't had Mitchell Robinson all year. He comes back in, completely changes what this team is capable of doing, and he gives Tom Thibodeau more rotation versatility because you could play him with Cat, you could play him with Precious, or you could play him with not Mitch. You could play him with OG. You can play him with so many different guys out there that it just gives you more time to let other guys rest. Right? You can play around with these lineups. On top of that, we got a chance to see what it looks like with Deuce in the starting lineup. We got a chance to see what it looks like with DeLon Wright in the starting lineup. With DeLon Wright in there, you're getting deflections, you're getting activity, right? So the question becomes, can they continue this defensive pressure with Jalen Brunson back on the floor, right? And the season could depend on that, because we look at that series, we're looking at, there's no way around. You're going to have to get to Boston, right?
Yes.
And when you look at the last few games against the Celtics, what do they do when the games get tight? They clear it out. They get the switch on to Brunson, and they attack that every single time until Tom Thibodeau calls a timeout. It's just what happens, right? So the Knicks have to find a way to get that down, right? But if they can find a way to address that, and now this is going to be what it's going to take, because especially once you get to the playoffs, you're playing the same team every single game, and the same team is going to try to pick on weak links. It's a matchups. It's styles make fights, right? So how are the Knicks going to prepare for this fight against what's looking like could be the Pistons, could be the Bucks? We're not sure. That's their weakest link right now on defense. So how are they going to compensate for that? We'll see. But to your point, yeah, that's the level to which this team can defend is going to dictate how far they can get into the playoffs. Now, granted, even if they string together one of the best defensive series they've ever put together, Boston is the reigning champion, right? There's no shame in losing to the Celtics in the second round. It's just a matter of, how does it happen? Is it competitive, or is the margin of loss 21 points like it's been in all three of these games so far on average? So we'll see, but defense is going to be the concern. I think Mitch is going to help with that. I think lineups with Mitch, Cat, and OG are really going to help with that, because you're going to have the length to put behind Jalen. And then you throw McHale out there guarding the point of attack. These guys just have to get on the same page in terms of communicating, and they're going to have to help. That's going to be the name of the game. You got to help.
No question about it. And as Kristian mentioned, the playoffs, hey, Knicks fans, playoff tickets have been released today, and they are pretty penny. I'm not even going to lie to you, man. So for those of you out there that are looking for tickets, and if it's sold out on Ticketmaster, or you're looking for a good deal, head over to Seat Geek and use our code KFTV10 for 10% off your tickets. That's what Seat Geek, the #1 rated ticketing app and the official ticketing app of KnicksFanTV. We were just in Atlanta, and before the game, people at the meetup were using our Seat Geek code to get very cheap, because in Atlanta, they very cheap tickets off of Seat Geek. So for those of you that are trying to get into the Garden, as Kristian said, it's already starting to get hyped. It's the hottest ticket in the league. Go to SeatGeek.com, use the SeatGeek app. Look for the green dots. That will indicate whether the deal is like from amazing down to good. The red dots, you might want to stay away from them and wait it out a little bit. Look for those. The green dots, the red dots are bad. Green dots are good. KFTV 10 with our friends over at SeatGeek. Okay, 10% off up to $20 in total discounts, man. Can go a long way. Get you a little, if you're into the glizzies, get you a glizzy, get you a soda or something with that savings. You know what I mean?
Nah, I don't know what you mean, brother. I don't know what you mean, but that's a good deal. That's a real good deal. 10% off. I might have to start telling some folks to use your code.
There you go. Now, TM says in the chat, you can also use the code KFTV for $20 off if you've never used the code before. Okay, so shout out to TM. So that code still works. So KFTV works for $20 off. KFTV 10 works for 10% off if you haven't used the code already. Now,
KFTV what? I'm writing this down.
Yeah, KFTV right now. For $20 off, and then KFTV 10 for 10% off up to $20.
I love me a good deal, man. I ain't going to hold you.
Absolutely.
Anytime I get a good deal, I'm writing that joint down.
For sure. Now, with the bench rotation, a lot is made about what's going to go down in the playoffs with this bench rotation. Hey, a lot of people got the preview with Delon Wright, and they like that. Even at the expense of Tyler Kolik's minutes. Now Campaign has come back. He's come back for 2 games. Brought energy, but not too much offense. What do you think about Tibs' potential playoff rotation as it relates to, because Deuce is locked in at 6, Mitch at 7, but as it relates to that 8th man, you have Delon, you have Campaign, then you have Landry Shamet. How do you think it shakes out?
I think it goes. I think Tibs really likes Landry Shamet coming off the bench as that flamethrower, right? Especially if you're considering Deuce is going to be potentially the first guard off the bench. He likes to play those 3 guards together. That's the 3-guard lineup that he was really liking in preseason before Landry went down. So I think we're going to see those 3 play in sync together. But if you're talking about just needs minutes in a pinch, Landry has the size. Landry's really gotten into a good shooting groove recently, which is exactly what Tom Thibodeau's the first person to say.
Right on time. Need that.
We want to play our best basketball at the end of the season. Landry and OG, everybody's playing their best basketball right now, and then Jalen has to kind of get his groove back. So I think that's a great spot for them to be. To your question, though, in terms of rotation, it's probably going to be situational. If you're dealing with the Pistons and they're playing with some size, maybe you want Landry. If you've got the Bucks and you just want some perimeter scoring pop, because we don't know if Dame is going to be on the floor or not, but traditionally that's the player that teams go at in the backcourt. You put Campaign on the floor, he'll take 10 shots in 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? We know how Campaign gets. So it's going to be matchup based. But I think if we're looking at this Detroit matchup, maybe Detroit, you go get Delon Wright, who's a guy who's going to pressure the ball full length of the floor. Deuce is going to do that too. Landry's going to have some size. It'll be situational for sure. But I think in terms of that 3-guard lineup, that's one that Thibs likes in terms of Cam, in terms of Deuce, and in terms of Landry. But the way Delon has been playing these last few days, these last few, I guess, games, I spoke to him. He doesn't think his role, and we saw he didn't really play in the last game, but he didn't think he was going to get any minutes with everybody coming back. But what he did was he played himself into the back of Tibbs' mind, right? So because now he's seeing the deflections in real time. He's seeing the corner 3-point shooting. He's seeing that Delon's not somebody who's going to put the ball on the floor and try to make a play for himself. He's going to get the ball to somebody else, go to the corner. That's what he told me he was going to do, and that's what he did. So that's a live body out there that can help you win games. It's not like a rookie. This guy's played on so many different teams in the span of a couple years. So this is a guy that you can trust, and that's something that you need on this roster. So I think it goes Landry, Cam, and Deuce coming off the bench with Delon on the outside looking in. But as we've seen, guys get their opportunities. Crazier things have happened. You never know who Tibs is going to call on in the playoffs.
Good point. As you said, in this stretch of games that he's played, he's at least put that thought in Tibbs' head, like, hey, if I got to go to this guy, now I know how he plays with this roster. At least we know that as a floor, he's going to be able to get after it, defend, 6'5" frame. So that's good. I'm sure Tibbs likes that. And, hey, we'll see if Delon gets his opportunities at some point in the coming weeks. CP the Fanchise, Kristian Winfield in the building. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Like, share, and subscribe. Knicks Weekly, episode 126. I want to shout out our Fanchise channel members. Also, shout out the Replay Gang. So, Kristian, the Replay Gang, those are the people who, they don't catch us live, but they catch us at some point, man. So they
I'm part of the Replay Gang.
Yeah, there you go.
What I'm saying? Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, so shout out to the Replay Gang. And you guys know if you can't catch these on video, you can always catch us on audio on all podcast platforms. Okay, this is an HU takeover. The real HU, as my guy Christopher Blake.
I don't know why does Howard keep thinking they're the real HU and they can't beat us in a basketball game. I don't remember the last time Howard beat us in anything.
No,
I just it don't make sense. They got a good homecoming. I love Howard homecoming.
Yeah, it's a great one.
But after that, I don't see it. There's no comparison. But we could do this all day.
Absolutely, man. 50 wins, back-to-back seasons for 50 wins, and you've been covering the team now for those 2 years now, right?
Sir. Yes,
so
sir.
you've seen it here, back-to-back 50 pieces. We call it the 50 burger here. How do you react to that?
You know, I think this year it became the expectation that this team win 50 games, but last year, for all the injuries that team had to weather. You know what I'm saying? To have 2 midseason trades and to still get 50 wins and get the Eastern Conference second seed. That's the reason why I voted Tom Thibodeau second, or was it third? Either second or third for Coach of the Year. I had a vote last.
Okay.
This year, the stakes have changed, right? This year, everything's changed. When you give up 5 draft picks for a guy, when you make a big trade and go for Karl Anthony Towns, you're expected to win 50 games, right? You're expected to at least get back to the second round, right? So the Knicks are playing at expectation, but at the end of the day, 50 wins is 50 wins, right? There's only a handful of teams that can say they won 50 games, and not all of them, you know what I'm saying, are living up to their standard. And the Knicks are living up to what they set out to do. The issue is, even though they have these 50 wins, you're 0-3 against Boston, you're 0-3 against Cleveland, and you're 1-2 against Detroit, who you may have to see in the first round, right? You're also 0-2 against Oklahoma City. So and then when you ask guys in the locker room last night, you're like, hey, you know, we like that we have 50 wins. It's a big milestone, but at the end of the day, we're trying to work on making ourselves better because we're not trying to be a regular season team. They know that. You see all the fans what they're talking about on Twitter and whatnot. These guys see it. They're talking about that stuff too. This is a team that wants to build on being a second round team. The issue is, you got Boston, who's a buzzsaw, which is why some people were like, hey, what if the Knicks drop down to 4 and then you get this matchup and then you get Cleveland, which is, you know, that different ways. But this team is not going to intentionally lose games. They want to live up to that standard of winning. So 50 wins, and on top of that, you gotta tip your hat to Tom Thibodeau passing Pat Riley on the all-time franchise leaderboard for coaching wins. I mean, you talk about culture changing. This is a guy who came in and took over a franchise that hadn't seen the playoffs in 7 years or so, and turns them around. And now the playoffs is the expectation. Now 50 wins isn't enough. Now, if you don't have 65 wins, it's not a successful season because of the standard that he set, right?
Yeah.
So shout outs to Tibs and the jobs that they've done. 50 wins is something to hang your hat on, but at the same time, we know this franchise wants more, and we know the fan base ain't going to let them forget it. So
no question. No question about it, man. Well said by you. I definitely agree with everything that you said. 50 wins, that was certainly the bar. And hey, congratulations. Hats off to them for doing it. Hats off to Tibs for, number one, passing Pat the Rat, putting him in the rearview mirror. Now he looks at Jeff. Yeah, there's still beef there. There's still beef there, man. Every time we go to Miami and get a win, I'm just elated. It could be preseason. It don't matter what type of season it is. You know what I mean? Any win over the Heat and Pat the Rat while he's still there. I take a lot of glory with that.
You're hilarious,
so
bro.
good thing that he put him in the rearview. And hey, another 50 burger for him with this team. Just given everything that this team is going through, the machinations of the roster, completely overhauling from last year. In a way, with losing Julius, losing iHeart, not having Mitch, guys being hurt for some segments of this season. Hey, they got the job done. But as you said, not beating the elite teams is still going to kind of stick with them until they can knock that off their shoulders. So we'll see what happens in the playoffs and if they can exercise those demons. I still think that this team we haven't seen the best of this team just yet.
Sure.
Because this is only the fourth or fifth game with them in full strength. So we haven't seen the best of them both offensively and defensively. And I think they could be shocking people come playoff time. Now,
listen,
go ahead.
I think just the idea that the Knicks haven't played the Pistons with Mitchell Robinson yet this season is a big deal, because Mitchell Robinson's adding toughness, he's adding size, he's adding rim protection, he's adding all the things that they've been missing in these types of games against teams like this. So, and on top of that, just the lineup versatility that you have now, where we're actually talking about Tibs and how many players behind Deuce and Mitch he can play off the bench, whereas earlier in this season, you were looking at 7 guys, and at the 8th guy, you're like, oh, where are we going from here? Right now, you actually have options. It's just a matter of you've only got 4 games left to work through it. So that practice, they might have like a little mini training camp right now going into the playoffs, because they got some things to work through. But we're going to see potentially the best version of this team at the time where they need them to be the best, which is first round of the playoffs, second round. So let's see. Let us see.
No question about it. And, when you think about the 50 burger, and shout out to my guy, Jonathan Macri. Shout out to Macri for this one. When you think about the 50 piece, hang on, let me pull it up here. Boom, here we go. The Knicks won 98 games in the first 4 seasons before Leon Rose arrived. They've won 100 in the last 2.
Oh, my goodness.
Come a long way, man. We've come a long way.
Got a couple more stats for you. This is the 15th season where you've had 50-plus wins for the Knicks ever. Only 15. 2 times by Tibs. Yeah. And it's the 3rd time since 2000, which was the year Jeff Van Gundy did it. So we just talk about elite company, just all-time Knicks history. I mean, sure, the bar is second round, third round of the playoffs championship, but sometimes we got to be a prisoner of the moment and understand that, what we're seeing right now is history in real time. This is one of the best seasons this team has ever had in its existence.
Yeah.
I mean, we're blessed to be living in this time right now.
No question about it.
I'm a Jets fan, so I know what it's like to be sad perpetually, years on years on years.
It's brutal.
This is not that. This is the opposite situation, man.
For sure.
It's refreshing.
For sure, man. Okay, man, the last segment of today's show, since this is your KnicksFanTV debut, it's only right that we participate in an episode of Worst Take. Now, on Worst Take, we go around the NBA podcast via the media landscape, and we react to sound bites about the New York Knicks, and we get your reaction to it. So on this episode of Worst Take, ESPN's own Rick DiPietro and Dave Rothenberg had this to say about head coach Tom Thibodeau and as the Knicks head into the playoffs. So I'm going to play this soundbite, and then I want to get your reaction to it. Here we go. Here we go.
I would like to see this play out a little bit. However, if you have a bad postseason, it will not look the same next year. And if you have a really bad postseason, it's really not going to look the same next year.
I think there is that chance, yeah.
I mean, you tell me, if the Knicks lose to Detroit or Milwaukee, whoever, is the coach back next year?
If they lose in the first round, I have a...
There's no way he's back. There's no way he's back next season.
Probably not. I hate that.
Hate it or not, there's no way he's back next year if they lose in the first round. I would like to see...
Your thoughts, Kristian Winfield.
That's tough.
Is he back or is he fired?
First and foremost, I think you could say that about any coach that's coaching a 50-win team, right? And there's a precedent for this, right? There's, Mark Jackson took the Golden State Warriors so far. They switch a head coach out, even though he's having successful seasons. You've got what happened with Cleveland, right? Cleveland hit a plateau with JB Bickerstaff. They bring in Kenny Atkinson. Now he's changed the vibes. You got even Boston. They only got so far with Brad Stevens. It just happens to be Joe Mazzulla, right? And then on top of that, when a team underperforms, obviously the first person that you're looking at is the coach. It happens every day. That being said, this is a team, I always think back to this. Last year, Game 7, Indiana Pacers, Knicks lose, Jalen Brunson at the press conference. I asked him, is this a successful season? He said, no. I'm like, why? We made the second round last year. So that's not a success. So if you're telling me 2 years in a row, you don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's not a success. Then what happens if you get bumped in the first round, right? That's got to be even more of a drastic disappointment than coming up short against the same team again. So it's a fair argument point to make, because it's underperforming if you lose in the first round, right? That's for everything that you did to put this team together. To lose in the first round, it's tough. And then on top of that, like we already said, normally the first domino to fall is going to be the coach. But at the same time, when you consider everything that Tom Thibodeau has been able to do during his time here, and you consider just how this team has been able to fight, and the fact that you have Jalen Brunson coming back at the end of the season trying to figure out chemistry with all these guys, first round, it's a tough sell, because a first round is, I don't think anyone could see this team losing in the first round and keeping anything the same, right? Something would have to change. That being said, is it the coach? Is it a trade? Is it the players? It kind of depends on how the series plays out. Do guys get hurt again? Do guys just fall short? Does Detroit bully them? What does it look like, right? So we'll see. But at the end of the day, I think Tibs has done such a good job so far that it's got to be the most impossible decision to try to fire him. And that's the thing. First round, man. First round is tough. But at the same time, I don't think any of us are looking at this first round series like the Knicks don't have a shot to win this thing. I think no matter who they play, sure, you're looking at the 1-2 record against Detroit, but you didn't have Mitch for those games. Right. And you have OG playing at a different level, right? And if you get Milwaukee, I think the Knicks have had Milwaukee's number all year, to the point where Doc Rivers couldn't even explain it. So sure, if you want to say, do you fire your head coach if you come up short in the first round? You could say that for 10 teams in the NBA right now. Would the Knicks happen to be one of them? Maybe. That being said, I don't think that's what's on the table. I think what's on the table is the Knicks prove who they are in the first round. In the second round, that's where you run into Boston. That's where you see what the difference might be between good and not good enough, right? Like this, you have to get over the hump. So
yeah,
well, I think that's an extreme take, though. That means are you praying on the Knicks to lose in the first round? I don't know.
It's an extreme take, man. No offense to those guys. I mean, DiPietro, he's a hockey goalie. Like, what does he know about the Knicks, man? My man spent his majority of his career robbing the Islanders of millions of dollars, and now he's jumping into the sports talk. Stick to the hockey, man. Talk about Ovechkin, because you could hear him in his response. He's like, he wasn't too confident in his answer.
That's hilarious.
What I will say is I agree with you in that, yes, the expectations, the pressure is on now for this team to not just get to the second round. This is, they want to win a championship. They are building this team to try to win a championship. And so the pressure is going to be on Tibs to get them there. How will he adjust? How will he handle the rotations? Is he just a regular season coach? Is he just a stepping stone coach like a Mark Jackson was for Golden State and like many other coaches are, right? Where it takes another coach to kind of take him over the top. A lot of people look at Cleveland being in that same scenario, right? Boston, as you mentioned, from Stevens to Mazzulla. So we've seen a lot of examples of this.
Yeah.
However, I do believe that relationship matters in this whole equation, where Thibodeau came in here with Leon Rose, with Worldwide West. They were a trio. We just talked about back-to-back seasons of 50-plus wins. Talk about all the players that we go backwards in this show. OG Anunoby having a career year under Tibs. Isaiah Hartenstein had a career year under Tibs. Brunson, Randall, all-stars. Quickly, 6th man of the year, runner-up. Dante DiVincenzo had a monster year.
Look at what Deuce is doing.
Look at what Deuce is doing. So, you can give the guy a lot of credit for the players that he's developed and setting the culture for this team. And because of that, I believe that, for one, I think it's going to take a monumental collapse for this team to lose in the first round. I think they're too good to lose in the first round. Second round, we'll see what happens. Obviously, they're going to be a big underdog in the second round. If they do lose in that first round, or even if they lose in the second round, I believe the pressure on Tibs is going to be even higher for the following season.
Yeah.
That is when the team will improve the bench. You'll have another contract that you can add. You'll have another draft pick in the second round that you can add. Maybe your younger players, you expect them to step up from Dottier to Kolek to Huckporty, right? You expect Leon Rose to improve this roster within the little means that they have to do so. And when they do that, the pressure will be on the coach to say, okay, now we've gotten you more players, a better bench, a more balanced bench roster. Now we gotta make this move. And
that's something that
go ahead.
Something that I don't think that we talk about enough is that the front office does an excellent job at reading the room in terms of what this roster needs. When you talk about trading for Derrick Rose, when you talk about trading for Josh Hart, when you talk about trading for OG, when you talk about trading for Bojan and Alec Burks in the middle of the season because they needed that healthy body because everybody was going down last year. Even this year, they had the foresight to know that we were going to lose 3-point guards. So let's go get Delon Wright. Because if you didn't have Delon Wright, I don't know what you would have done with only having Kolek on the roster to play the point guard when all those three guys go down. So I think the trust level in the front office to do what's necessary to get this team in terms of stylistically profiling with some of these teams like Cleveland and Boston, I think the trust level is there for them, right? So regardless of what happens this summer, we know that this is a roster that, was put together in one summer, and now they're trying to figure out how they fit together. And it's kind of like, okay, well, do these pieces mesh and how do they match up against these other teams? Now the front office, it's on them to kind of figure out how to improve on it with the limited means that they got. This CBA is ridiculous. These guys can't even. It's crazy. So, and on top of that, you're right up against the second apron next year. You got Brunson's extension about to kick in soon. You're going to have to pay Bridges and figure that out. So they're not going to have much wiggle room, but this is a front office that knows what they're doing in terms of the cap, in terms of just relationships, in terms of what the roster needs. I have full faith in them figuring it out as well. So we'll see what it looks like, and then we'll see if there are changes to be made in the offseason. We'll see what they do.
And also, a lot of people like to use the analogy of, the Bucks got rid of Bud and he was a championship coach. And I look at that a little bit differently in that, yes, similar to Tibs, he gets a lot of criticism for his lack of adjustments, especially in the playoffs. But the Bucks were the number 1 seed, and they lost to the 8th seed in a gentleman's sweep. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got washed by the Miami Heat. It was a little bit different. And who knows what the relationship was between the Edens, the ownership, and Budenholzer. Anything is possible, right? We just saw Luka Doncic just get traded from the Mavericks. So anything's possible. You don't know everything that's working underneath it all. Yeah. But I think they'll give him one more chance to try to right this thing if they should suffer a collapse in the first round or just get completely embarrassed in the second.
Yeah, that's why I say it really depends on what that series looks like, right? Like if it's a first round series and it goes 7 games and maybe someone gets hurt or is a freak play. Detroit is a good basketball team. If you end up playing against Detroit, Kate Cunningham's having a great year. They've got Malik Beasley's shooting the lights out. You got a lot of guys, but when you just look at the roster on paper, right, and you put those two rosters side by side, Tobias Harris is not OG Anunoby. No. Right? Not even close. And if that's both teams, I don't even know what option that would be for them because you have Cade Cunningham and then they kind of spread it out. You've got Jalen Brunson, you've got OG Anunoby, you've got Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart. That should win you that series regardless of what the stylistic matchup is, right? So we'll see what that looks like. Hopefully the Knicks are able to come out of that first round. And it's not over. They still could draw Milwaukee, so we'll see what happens. But I think it depends a lot on what that series looks like. And then on top of that, second round, there's no shame in losing to Boston. Boston is the defending title holder. We know what they're capable of doing. That's why I thought Cleveland might have been a better matchup. But you lose to Boston, even if you sneak one game against Boston, I think it's okay. You tried, right? But at the same time, this isn't a season where you want to try. This is a season where you're trying to outdo yourself from the last 2 years because the Knicks are stuck at this second round wall that they're trying to get through. So it'll sting if they lose to Boston, sure, but there's no shame in that. So we'll see.
Let us know your thoughts in the chat. Leave a comment in the comment section. Is Tibs out of here if the Knicks suffer a first-round upset? Leave it in the comments, man. That was another edition of Worst Take. Kristian Winfield, let the people know where they can find you, man.
Listen, if you can find a New York Daily newspaper in the store near you and go to the sports section on the back, you can find me in there. Obviously, I'm at Chris Splashed on Twitter, on Instagram, but yeah, man, New York Daily News, they gave me this opportunity to step in and cover this team, and it's been a dream come true ever since. So, I'm really grateful for you having me on there, man. I had a great time. And whenever you need me, I'm down.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. Thanks again for the time, and we'll look out for the next piece, man. Appreciate you, bro.
My guy, yes, sir. Anytime.
Yes, sir. All right, that was our guy, Kristian Winfield. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Definitely shout out to Kristian for his time. And shout out to one of our sponsors of today's show, and that is at DraftKings. Hey, the men's final is tonight. And when it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure, nothing's for sure. Just ask those Duke Blue Devils. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderella's advancing, top seeds going home early. It's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected, every upset, every day with DraftKings Sportsbook. And with live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March and now April. If it's your first time, here's something special just for you. Use our code KFTV on the DraftKings Sportsbook app or DraftKings.com. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. And that's with DraftKings. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Once again, this is for new customers only, and bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Okay. Great show, man. Great show by my guy, Kristian Winfield. Hey, Fanchise channel members, remember I told you guys I got something incredible in the mail, man, while I was in the A. These guys at AT&T dropped a bomb on me, man. And we're going to give it away. We're going to give it away tomorrow. As I said, the men's championship is tonight. And look what I got in the mail today. Who is this? Matter of fact, now you see it. And now you see it even more. An autographed Jalen Brunson Villanova jersey. That is going to be tomorrow night's giveaway on Post Game Live, Knicks versus Celtics. The captain has returned, and the captain has signed this jersey. And our good friends at AT&T have sent us this jersey, and guess what? I don't even want it. I'm giving it to you, a lucky Fanchise channel member at home. You got to watch, and you got to be in it to win it. So make sure, if you guys at home are not Fanchise channel members, hit the join button. Join the many Fanchise channel members that we have here on KnicksFanTV. You get custom emojis. You get priority access to call into the show. And you also get discounts to KnicksFanTV events, KnicksFanTV watch parties, which announcements will be coming out by the end of this week. So you want to be able to join the Fanchise channel members. You also get merch discounts as well. And so make sure you guys join, because tomorrow night, at the end of tomorrow's postgame show, the captain, an autographed Villanova jersey, is going home to somebody. And here go the tags. This ain't a Fulton Street knockoff. What does it say here? What does it say? Retro, the original retro. NBA PA. There you go. NBA Players Association retro brand. It's size extra large. Size extra large. All right, so if you want to wear it, if you want to frame it up, you can do that. Okay? All right, man. So either way, man, great show. Salute to our franchise channel members. Salute to the replay gang. I gotta get these lights situated. I'm looking at like a black and white TV over here. But either way, man, salute to you guys. Salute to TM, all the producers, all the mods. Salute to Gamba, Tyler somewhere in the Caribbean getting his tan on. He's on vacation, so shout out to him. And yeah, man, great show. Let us know your thoughts. Leave a comment in the comment section. I'm out of here, man. Bleacher Report, see you guys on Wednesday. YouTube, hey, we live every day, man. Number one show for the fans by the fans. Like, share, subscribe. I'm out of here. Peace.